So, are you DTFF?
Once again, here is Drinking and Talking Fantasy Football with your hosts, Dustin Lunt and Jake Trowbridge.
Hey, welcome back to the Drinking and Talking Fantasy Football podcast. Hope you're having a wonderful Tuesday evening, everyone, if you're joining us live here. Hopefully those of you that went to the Expo this last weekend are fully recovered, unlike my co-host, Jake Trowbridge, who is still trying to recover. Give him a break. He's in his 30s. He doesn't recover quite like he used to. I think that's just like a thing in your 30s where you don't recover and then you hit your 40s again and you feel terrific, because I feel fucking great after this weekend, man.
I'm on the wrong side of this bell curve, Dustin. I need to hurry up and cross the 40 threshold. My God.
Don't wish it here too soon, because the 30s are amazing.
Yeah. I mean, so far they've been all right. They've been fun.
Yeah. So we have got the culmination of our off season here with this one episode. This is our favorite episode. I shouldn't speak for you, Jake. It's my favorite episode of the summer, and I say that about a lot of these off season episodes. But this one in particular, I really do love. This is our Drinking Buddies episode. This is where we plant our flags in the sand and say, these are our guys. These are our ride or die guys. These are the guys we believe in and that we will be drafting onto our teams this season for redraft. So I'm really excited to talk about this. I know we've got some players that we probably disagree on a little bit, which maybe we'll end up with some beer bets, maybe, but it should be a good episode. But before we get into it, as I said, we were at the Expo this last weekend, and I'd like to get your thoughts, Jake. But first, I just want to say I had an amazing time. Other than the bullshit tolls between Indiana and Ohio, and the construction we faced. Other than that, it was a great fucking weekend. Like, I had a blast. Meeting everybody in the community out there was amazing. Everybody was as I envisioned, pretty much, coming from Twitter or, interacting with them on our show or being on their shows. For the most part, like I said, everybody was exactly what I thought, and probably even more delightful than I expected. So to all those out there, thanks for a great weekend. I had a blast. And Jake, I have to say, you were Mr. Popular this weekend here. You had so many people that wanted just to meet you, the man behind the parodies. So how'd that make you feel?
No, it felt due because I slipped all those people $5 via PayPal right before we got down there. That's what I didn't tell you. That's where the allure comes from, Dustin. It's all monetary.
Oh, you could have just slipped me all the fives, and I've been like, "Hey, have you seen my co-host Jake's videos?" Like,
Well, I expect you to do that anyhow, Dustin. I don't feel like I need to reimburse you to be my hype man. I thought that we had agreed on that, but I guess we need to reevaluate that contract. No, it was an incredible time. I mean, from start to finish. One, shout out to Bob Lung, who put that thing on. Mm-hmm. It was just so well run for not happening at all last year, happening, I believe, the first time the year prior to that in a much smaller capacity, to then have it be as big as it was. It was huge, both for analysts and for fans that came to the Expo on Sunday. Mm-hmm. The rest of the weekend was for the analysts, let's be honest. And then Sunday was really, set aside for the fans too. But it was so well run. Everybody was crazy nice. Mm-hmm. And yeah, it was a joy to meet people face to face. I mean, aside from you, no offense, and I'm sure it's the same way coming back to me, we're the only people that we know in fantasy football, really, that we've met face to face, because we live right next door to each other. And so it'd be weird if we didn't. But yeah, I am recovering, but it was a delightful thing to recover from.
Yes. Yeah, it was great. And if anyone didn't make it down this year, and I get it with the lingering COVID issues and things like that. I totally get it. But assuming things are better next year, make the trek to the Expo, because it was a blast. And yeah, big shout out to Bob Lung on that, because he did an amazing job. So yeah, with that, let's get into our show a little bit here. But first, before we hit our drinking buddies, we've got our beer of the week here. And this is one I picked up, a nice local brew from Capital Brewing here in Madison. This is their Awe Summer Ale, AWE.
Like awesome. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay,
yeah.
That too.
This is a bright golden blonde, crisp citrus aroma, refreshing, spritzy. It's an ale brewed with orange peel at 5% alcohol. So cheers, Jake. Hopefully you can choke this down.
No, this is delightful. This is the perfect kind of beer to come back onto the recovery train from. Let's be honest. This is nice and light. And as we haven't said in quite some time, crushable. You know that word? That is summer beer worthy. It's like, I'm going to hop on a boat, or I'm going to go push the mower around and drink a beer like this. And I love it. It's a good call.
Yep. Got a great comment in the chat here from Skinman19741. Just says, Jake's be modest. Wonderful guy. No reason he can't finish second in the Foo Fighters division in SFB. So thanks.
Damn it, Jason. It's Jason Thomas, who is going to be my villain. He's going to be the villain of the Foo Fighters division for sure in Scott Fishbowl. We are now enemies. So thank you for that, Jason. But I appreciate the first part of your comment very much.
So yeah, Jake, this is a great beer. Very refreshing, very orangey. But I do like it. It's a good summer beer. Good summer beer.
Yeah, it's like the definition of a summer beer. If you looked it up in a dictionary, you know what you would see?
This beer?
No, a definition of the word summer beer, which this fucking is, Dustin.
Oh, okay. I get it now. I'm right there with you. Nice.
But it's really tasty. Capital Brewery. By the way, one last call out about the expo here is, I know because we brought some of our favorite Wisconsin beverages just to basically drink at the hotel and whatnot, kind of on an as needed basis. If we weren't getting slow ass bartender service, we could go grab.
Shout out to Keith.
Thanks, Keith. Thanks for everything. And by that, I mean almost nothing. But we brought up, some great craft beers that we like from around here. But the talk around the expo was still, in terms of Wisconsin beers, Dustin, it's Spotted Cow. Spotted Cow still reigns supreme. Yeah. And
right there.
Look at that backup can you're working with
got
already
a backup
for
beer.
Tonight.
That's right.
You delightful son of a bitch. I just wanted to call out, I don't know, I feel like that's the big beer that's represented from Wisconsin. But there's more to Wisconsin than Spotted Cow.
So much more.
I just wanted to point that out.
So much more.
All right.
So,
are we ready for this?
Our drunk trade of the week? Let's do it.
Drunk, hammered drunk.
Drunk trade of the week.
So this week's drunk trade comes to us from Reddit. Hi, Reddit. Long time no see. User MF Raz says, guy offered me DeAndre Hopkins for Melvin Gordon and Josh Gordon. This was in 2019, so there was still a lingering chance that Josh Gordon was going to go and do something. This was like round 8 of the cycle of Josh Gordon has the potential to actually get involved in football again. So our submitter says, hit accept as fast as I could. Of course, naturally. It's a half PPR, 10-team league. I asked for the follow-up. How drunk do you think the league mate was? And they said, enough to think that would somehow pay off. So once more, our submitter was offered DeAndre Hopkins for his Melvin Gordon and Josh Gordon, the Gordon duo. Dustin, let me kick it over to you. Initial impressions from this drunk trade.
Oh, this is a smash accept for him here with the Hopkins side. I mean, as much as I love the office of Gordon and Gordon, especially in a 10-team league, getting that one elite player as opposed to two. I mean, Melvin Gordon, he was kind of a fringe RB12 or RB1, I should say, a couple years ago. But to get that one top 5 elite player on your team in a smaller league setting like that, you can't go wrong. And I mean, personally, I was never a big believer in Josh Gordon after his, multiple suspensions and everything. So I never thought he would get back on the field. But yeah, smash accept for the Hopkins side without even thinking about it.
Yeah, and clearly, as they said, it was an insto accept. That's one of those where you should make sure to check your alerts constantly in your leagues. Don't let them sit out for too long, because if you do, you might not get to accept a trade like this because the other person might come to their senses before you see it and get the chance. Right. And so they took advantage, which is great. Yeah, let me just call out Melvin Gordon here. So in 2019, was going into a contract year with the Chargers, right? And so people still had high hopes. He did get injured, as he tends to do throughout his career.
True story.
He put up a respectable stat. He had 8 touchdowns in 12 games. But 600 rushing yards. He had about 300 receiving yards, which is real nice. He had an adequate season. But now, flash forward now, last year, again, fine. Very fine, respectable season. But would you say, from this point forward, I'm just curious, I'm trying to milk this for all it's worth, is there anything left for Melvin Gordon here in terms of real value?
No. Okay. It's just that simple. No.
I agree. You might get half a year out of him this year, and I think you'd be lucky for that. Frankly.
I mean, if you take him in, maybe the early double-digit rounds as like your running back 5 or 6 or something, use him as maybe a flex play. Maybe you'll get some good run, like you said, early in the season. Then you can trade him away, sure. But no, yeah, Melvin Gordon's done. It's toast.
Oh, yeah. But Josh Gordon, this is the year, by the way, that he landed on the Patriots. And so there was that spark. Anything can happen. It's the Patriots. He's going to be Tom Brady's favorite receiver. And, obviously things didn't quite work out. So, yes, Hopkins over Gordon, and Gordon every single time, even at the height of their powers, that was a smash accept. So we absolutely we can move on from that now, I guess. I don't think there's anything left to talk about there.
All right. Well, Jake, do you want to give us a read from our sponsor for this week?
I am excited to give a read from our sponsor, Poor Richard's Farms All Natural Beef Sticks. Dustin, I don't even want to read, this little script that I have, because now we're at the point. I have finished off a good deal of these beef sticks. All of them that I had received, in fact.
Oh, I finished the last beef stick off tonight, and it was delightful.
How was that beef? How was the last beef when it hit your lips, Dustin? How good? Oh,
it feels so good when it hits your lips. You just can't help but put it in your mouth.
Can I ask what flavor you finished the batch off with here?
This was the barbecue.
Barbecue. Nice.
Yes.
So, yes, all of Poor Richard's Farm beef sticks are smoked with real hardwood chips. They come in a variety of flavors. So there is the aforementioned barbecue hickory. There is teriyaki maple, Tex-Mex mesquite, and the original, the OG flavor as well. They're all natural. There's no fillers, no artificial preservatives. They're shelf stable still, though, so you don't got to worry about them going bad at any point. No supplemental hormones or antibiotics given to the cattle, which are European beef cattle. I'm just going to say it. I am about to place like an order that I think will shock my fiance when it comes to the door. I think it's going to be that large of a box. I am obsessed with these things. And listeners, you can get 5% off of your entire order if you use your promo code DTFF at checkout. You also get free shipping when you buy 3 or more packs of these. You're going to want at bare minimum 3, not just because of the shipping, but because they are that tasty. No BS.
Jake and I were talking on the drive back from the expo on Sunday night, and I had gotten at one of our gas station pit stops a little beef stick cheese combo that you can get at their little deli cooler there. And I told them, I'm like, this is just not the same. I'm like, Poor Richards, they ruined all other beef sticks out there for me because they are that good. And that's no bullshit. They are excellent beef sticks. You cannot go wrong. Like you, Jake, I'm probably going to be placing an order here very soon to get some more because they are that fucking delicious.
Heck yes. Heck yes. So listeners, do yourself a favor. Eat the beef that we eat, which is this beef, Poor Richard's Farm.
That's right. All right, let's do this. I'm so excited.
It's time. It is time for the segment of the century, Dustin.
Well, of the summer.
Of this. No, this is going to be even better than last year's episode.
Oh.
You know why? Because I feel even more confident in my drinking buddies this year than I ever have before.
So you're saying this is going to be the best episode we ever do is right here, this one. You said of the century.
When you put it that way, I meant like of the century to this point, you know,
okay.
From all of the days and weeks in this century so far, this one is the best to this point.
Okay. All right. I got
I don't want to cap this early. I don't want to peak here, Dustin, but it is going to be amazing. Now, so the rundown, of course, we pick one at every position: quarterback, running back, wide receiver, and tight end. We pick, like you said, these are the guys we are getting on our rosters. Basically, we're doing anything that we can to have them on our teams.
That is correct, sir. So, Jake, why don't you start us off here?
Thank you for allowing Ryan Fitzpatrick to open up this segment. He deserves it, and you deserve to have him on your team. Fitzpatrick, I don't know why his ADP is so criminal, Dustin. All I can surmise is that he's a journeyman. He's been on a million teams at this point, and people are frustrated at the small number of startable games he's had because he's not always starting for his team in the NFL. Mm-hmm. He's sharing time with somebody. Is it Jameis Winston? Is it Josh Rosen? Is it Tua? Is it somebody else coming up in Washington? No. It is Ryan Fitzpatrick's year. The competition behind him, it's Taylor Heineke, it's Kyle Allen, and it's not a worry. This is the first year in quite some time, I think you're going to finally see Ryan Fitzpatrick starting for, I'll say, at minimum 12 games. And I actually think that it's probably going to be the entire season, barring injury. Now, last year, he looked like he could start the whole season. He really did. He had his highest completion percentage of his career. He had the second highest air yards per attempt of his career. So he was not only accurate, but he was slanging that thing. And he looked great in the starts that he had. So weeks 1 through 6 last year, when he was the starter, he finished as quarterback 12 in points per game. So he was a QB1. The only other start he got last year, week 12, he was the QB8 that week. So did not have lower than QB1 for that duration, that stretch that he got to start. If we flash back one more year, 2019, week 7 on, when he finally took over as the starter, he was the quarterback 5 in points per game. In 2018, he was the quarterback 5 in points per game overall. Started 8 games. What more do you want out of Ryan Fitzpatrick now that he walks into a team that has a better offensive line than he's had, better weapons than he's had? I am a big fan of Cloran and Curtis Samuel and Dynamite Brown from a real life football perspective. For fantasy, I don't know how smitten I am with anyone individual there, but for the team and for Fitzpatrick in fantasy, it's such a slam dunk. And he's going for free. He's quarterback 22 right now. I hope that his ADP does not rise one bit. And so I say this, please draft him, but not early, because I don't want his ADP to rise before I get the chance to. And our league doesn't draft for like another 3 weeks, Dustin. So I really need this to stick.
I don't think you'll have an issue with that. Let's be honest. He's always been just criminally undervalued in fantasy football, mainly because he hasn't had that stability of being the starter. Every year that he's signed with a new team, he's that fill-in guy, or they always draft a rookie quarterback to kind of be that bridge QB. So they didn't do that here in Washington this year. So the fact that he is the guy that he's their ride or die, unless you're going to go with like, who is it, Tyler Heineke or who else is there? PJ Walker or something like that. I mean,
Kyle Allen is the other
Kyle Allen.
contender.
I don't even know. Like there's a bunch of no-name quarterbacks, obviously much more talented than myself, but no-name quarterbacks when it comes to the NFL. So the fact that they didn't spend high draft capital on a quarterback this year, or any draft capital, really speaks volumes to their comfort level with him and having him around, if not just for this year, even next year as well.
It's possible. Look, because I don't know what they're going to be looking at for draft capabilities for quarterback next year. And yes, a trade is always on the table, or one of these, again, weary travelers at quarterback could find their way to Washington too. But yeah, for this year, at least, I'm obsessed. And in Dynasty, he's worth, I mean, you can get him probably for a 3rd round pick pretty easily, because nobody wants to believe in Fitzpatrick, at least for the long haul.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So my quarterback is number 1, Cam Newton for the New England Patriots. A lot of things going against him. Let's be honest. They drafted Mac Jones 15th overall in the rookie draft this year. He's currently 31 overall for quarterbacks. 31. Fringe starter on an NFL team at this point.
That's not even just free. That is literally somebody paying you to take him at this point.
Yeah, he's essentially free at this point. But why do I like him? Do you ask?
Do tell.
I sure will. So here's the deal with Cam. He is on the last year of his contract. So he's going to be playing for a starting role for next season. And when you look at the schedule that they had last year, we know he came down with COVID. And that was about week 4, I believe. Early October is when he had his positive test. Missed the week versus Kansas City. He had that. He was coming off of the foot injuries from the year before, so there might have been a little hesitancy with that. And notoriously learning a very difficult Bill Belichick playbook there in New England, something totally different than what he's done before. While they did and do cater to more of Cam's strengths as a good offensive coordinator, a good offense will, it's still a Bill Belichick offense, which, like I said, is notoriously a little bit more difficult to grasp than what we've heard other playbooks are. I mean, we've seen wide receivers struggle there, running backs, if they don't do their job correctly, they get benched right away. So it's like I said, notoriously tough. And then what we saw out of Cam last year, and while the early season, the first few weeks before he got COVID, was nothing to write home about. Super great. He had 4 rushing touchdowns and 2 passing touchdowns, which is great. After that, I mean, he was facing a lot of really tough defenses, which on top of recovering from COVID, I think that slowed him down. So he had San Francisco ranked number 6 versus the QB last year. Buffalo ranked 13th. Baltimore ranked 5th. Arizona ranked 16th. The Rams 1st. Miami 15th. Buffalo again. I mean, that is just a gauntlet of very good pass defenses that he had to go against. And look at the guys he was throwing to last year. N'Keal Harry. No, you don't. You please don't. Was it N'Keal Harry, Jacoby Myers? I mean, which we still have high hopes for these guys, but let's be honest, they're not guys that you want to necessarily draft and have on your team that you feel really good about. Which, to be fair, they tried to address that this offseason with a couple of big tight end signings, which is nice. Gives them more pass catching options. Pour one out for our 3rd round dual tight ends that was drafted last year as rookies. That dream has just come crashing down. But I think this year, he's another year in the offense. He's going to have a full off season. with the team and learning the playbook and running plays. Because remember, it was a truncated offseason with COVID last year. Better pass catchers all around. Should have a little bit stronger run game, I would think. Damian Harris has looked pretty good so far in camp, and what we saw in preseason. They drafted Ramondre Stevenson in the draft this year to help bulk that up. Sony Michel's in there. Hopefully he's healthy, I guess you could say, after being pretty well dinged up every single year here. So there's a lot to look forward to with this offense. And like I said, the big thing, Cam's playing for a potential starting job, or at least a chance to compete for a starting job after the season. Because I don't think the Patriots will bring him back. And with Mac Jones, I think they want to give him a year to really learn the offense, and it'll be a totally different offense than what they're running with Cam. So I think they're going to play this year with Cam, have Mac Jones learn the offense ideally, and then they'll let Cam walk, bring in some other guy that more fits their personnel to be a backup to Mac Jones after this year. So Cam's got a lot to play for. And like I said, as the 31st quarterback off the board, I mean, he is free and he's going to far outplay that ADP for you. So I'm all aboard the Cam train. Toot.
That was such a soft toot for that Cam train. I feel like it'd be like, oh, ooga. a little gumption into that thing. I do want to say, I love this. I love this one so much. To the folks who believe Mac Jones will be the starter for the majority of this year, I've been impressed by Mac Jones in camp.
Yeah.
And yes, he does look good, but you hit the nail on the head with Cam from last year. Belichick's offense is tougher to grasp than a greased up cucumber. It is damn near impossible for a rookie to come in, or anybody new to that offense to come in and get it right away. So I don't think they force the issue. I don't think they force him into the role. And if you start Mac and he doesn't do well, it's going to be really hard to go back to Cam. Mm-hmm. You can go the other way. If Cam starts and for some reason he doesn't do well, you can always go to the rookie and say, well, we passed the torch now. But you can't go the other way. So I love this. I'm excited for him. I think he has the potential to be a top 15 quarterback actually pretty easily this year.
I love that. I love that we're on the same page there. Thank you so much, Jake.
Yeah, we did it. QB's off, and we are both on board so far. One quick thing about both of these guys. If you are in the habit of wanting to pair upside, and because these guys are free, take one of these guys and pair them with one of those rookies who you don't know if they're going to start, like Trey Lance or Justin Fields, who are still going a little later. And then you have a match made in heaven.
Oh, you even sang that one out. That was nice.
I did it. It was that good, Dustin. It was that good. Almost as good, by the way, as my running back drinking buddy.
Yes. Hit us with it.
Now, I have to call this out. This is the same guy that I had in the slot in 2020 for my drinking buddy of 2020. And I almost didn't do it.
And you know what? I'm going to admit I wanted to put Chris Carson down, but yeah. I knew this was your guy. I knew you loved him this much that I didn't, getting to the show sheet first, I knew it. And I was like, no, I'm going to let Jake have this one because you've been banging the drum for this guy. Well, we both have, but you especially have been just banging this drum all off season.
I appreciate you. And I also appreciate the number of times you just said bang in a row. I think that is the exact right tone for our podcast. But it is Chris Carson. Yeah, he's what does he have to do? This is going to be my consistent theme throughout this entire list. What do these guys have to do to prove their worth to fantasy drafters? So Chris Carson misses time last year, 4 games. And that's the only thing I can think of for why he is not flirting with QB1 ADP. I think if he had played the full season last year, we would see a different ADP. And I'd still be willing to draft him at that higher ADP. But as it stands right now, he is currently going behind J.K. Dobbins, behind David Montgomery. And nothing necessarily against those guys, but they do not have the consistency of Chris Carson. Nor actually do I believe the upside. Even with the injuries in Baltimore, I still think Chris Carson actually has untapped upside. So in the last 2 years, he was at least an RB2 in 74% of the games he played. That is taking into account games where he played and got injured. So I'm not going to throw those out. That's just unfair to do. But that's the deal. And he fell below 10 fantasy points almost never in 11% of games. He was the RB5 overall through week 5 of last year before he got injured. And then he got injured. It was tough. He missed a chunk of the season in the middle. He comes back, and in the last 5 weeks, he was still RB14 coming off of injury. And that offense in Seattle had undergone a drastic change while he was gone. They went from the let's sling it, let's let Russell cook, to let's go traditional, let's back off, let's focus on the run game. And they decided to focus on the run game with a banged up Chris Carson. That's how much they believe in him. That's much they want to put the workload on him. And it also made me realize it doesn't matter what offense they run this year. Because everybody still wants to know, are they going to let Russ pass more? Is this going to be a pass-heavy offense or a run-heavy offense? And it doesn't matter because both iterations, Chris Carson was the guy. He was still on pace for like 300 and some quality touches in his first 5 games and his last 5 games. It's just a matter of, is he going to get more catches for PPR, or is he going to get to run the ball a little bit more and maybe get some extra touchdowns there? And either version of it, I'm so fine with. And I'm not worried about Rashad Penny, or they brought in Alex Collins again, it looks like, and DJ Dallas. These guys behind him, they can take the Carlos Hyde role from last year, which was just strictly backup, strictly change of pace guy, and let Carson feast. He's basically in a contract year. They have a super easy out after this year, so it wouldn't be surprised if they cut him, traded him, whatever. So lock him up. I think he has clear RB1 upside.
Ooh, RB1 upside. I like that. And I'm not going to argue with anything you said. I'm right there lockstep with you with Chris Carson for this season. I don't believe in any of those other running backs that they have there. Yeah, they'll take a few touches here and there, but I mean, they're no significant, barrier for him to reach his potential. So yeah, I love that.
Woo! I love that you love it. And I'm ready to try to love your running back. Who we got, Dustin?
Yeah. And I'll be honest, as I was looking over the show sheet prior to the show today, I was like, I'm not 100% sold on this, but I'm going to stick with it. So yeah.
All right.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I thought about
your
changing
guns.
it, and I'm just like, no, this is my first gut feeling. This is what I'm doing. I'm sticking with it. Planting that flag. It's what it's all about. So my guy for running back is Myles Gaskin. Currently going off the board as the RB21 at 38 overall. So just beginning of the 4th round. So he's going fairly early. But the fact that he's going 21st as of running backs just tells you how valuable running backs are. And this guy, he can have a great season here. Now, I know we have temper our expectations a little bit with what we saw from the preseason game this week. That he got outsnapped by pretty much everyone else on the field. But I think they're just going to ease him back. Remember, he was injured last season. They know what they've gotten him. They don't need to see it in the preseason. So why not give these other guys snaps that aren't familiar with the offense, i.e. your Malcolm Browns that just came in via free agency? And why not rest the guy you know is going to be your bell cow guy for the season? And maybe he's not going to be that true bell cow, but like I said, as the RB21 coming off the board, I think he's going to far exceed that by the end of the season. Now, last year in the 10 games he played, because he was injured, he averaged in PPR leagues 16.8 points per game average, which is nice. You flirting with that 20, that's very, very good. And the thing is, he was getting the bulk of his team's red zone rushes, which is what you like to see, over 30%. He had 36 rushes inside the 20, 21 attempts inside the 10, and 11 inside the 5. So he's getting those very valuable goal line rushes. And I know what you're saying. Malcolm Brown, he's a bigger back. Ahmed, he was in there too. Well, Ahmed only got that opportunity because Gaskin was hurt. So I think he's going to hit the weights this offseason. He's going to work with the trainer. He's going to come back healthy. And really, they brought in Malcolm Brown. Yes, he will take some of the carries and some of the load because the days of the true bell cow running back are, with very few exceptions, is pretty much non-existent anymore. I mean, you got your handful at the very top, and they're the reason why they're at the very top. But teams just don't like to run that for the most part anymore. But as someone that you can get a little bit later in your draft, still has excellent upside, and is a very good receiver in his own right. I mean, he had 41 receptions last year in 10 games. So he's averaging over 4 receptions a game, which is very nice. What's not to lose? I think his ceiling is a lot higher than this 21. And I think he could flirt, if things go well, with high-end RB2 in that like 13, 14 range, just outside RB1 territory.
Wow.
What do you say about that?
Wow. We talked about this on our Sleepers and Bust episode. You're definitely higher on Gaskins than I am. I'm higher on guys like Malcolm Brown than you are. I do think that Brown proves to be the touchdown vulture, which is the one thing I think capping Gaskin's upside. I'm interested very much, though, in this offense as a whole, because the Dolphins did not get to run the offense that they wanted to run last year. Tua, the issues that they had with him and the quarterback flopping that we talked about with Fitzpatrick, and it was Devontae Parker and kind of nobody, and then Mike Gesicki there, and that's all they really had to work with. Now you've got Fuller, now you've got Waddle in there, and hopefully these guys can find a way to be healthy at some point. And that way we can see the offense that they want to run. And if there's more plays to be run, then there's more points to be had for your running backs. I'm not super smitten with Gaskin. And I do just want to ask this, though, because I'm curious. I think Gaskin is worth having as your like RB3. I'm very comfortable with that because he does have upside.
Well, that's not where you're going to take him.
No, I mean, that's my problem.
He's going at the beginning of the 4th round. So, I mean, he's not going to, unless you go RB in your first 3 picks, then you could get him there. But chances are that's not going to happen.
Which is why I'm probably just out on him. But I do want to know from your perspective, because you do like Carson, but you have Gaskin here. Who would you rather have at their ADP? So Carson at RB17 or Gaskin at RB22, it looks like.
I'll take Gaskin. I think he has a higher ceiling than Carson. It pains me to say it. I don't see Carson getting into that RB1 territory or the chance to. Just with the way that
high RB2 territory.
Yeah, I could see high RB2, but Gaskin, I mean, he's more of a pass catcher, and that's what you need as opposed to what Chris Carson offers. Like, he can catch balls, but that's not his forte. Where Myles Gaskin, he can catch balls. He's very competent at it. And that's what you need in a PPR league.
I don't disagree with some of what you said, but I vehemently disagree with some of the other things that you said. If we didn't already have a beer bet on the books about Myles Gaskin, which, as a reminder for both you and our listeners, was that Gaskin finishes as RB20 or higher. And that's you, obviously. I'm taking the under there, and that's why I don't want him at his ADP, is because I think you're drafting him basically at his ceiling. So if we didn't already have one, I would do a 1-for-1 some way with Carson and Gaskin to figure that out. But as it stands, I don't want to double up on one guy for a beer bet. It seems a bit much.
Okay, that's fine.
Nate's in the chat. Can you throw Nate up on the board real quick? Just want to call out this special gem here, Nate Hamilton, who we had on the show.
Delightful man.
We got to meet him in person at the expo, and what a goddamn treat. I mean, just talk about upside. Nate's got nothing but upside because, that dude's the best. Just want to call out
Absolutely.
Nate. All right. Now, do we dare?
Oh, and then to rub it in, says his drive was perfection on the way home.
Listeners, Nate and I got into a little bit of a spat at the expo. Let's call it a lover's quarrel. We got into a little bit of a lover's quarrel, and I wished him a bad drive home. Not like a dangerous drive home or anything like that. I'm not a psychopath, but just like a generally uncomfortable drive home because he said something to me. I don't even remember what it was, but I was spiteful. Let's just call it what it is. I'm spiteful. So that's what you get. But I'm glad to hear Nick got home safe from the Expo. Dustin,
right.
dare we venture into our wide receivers?
Let's do it. Hit me, Jake.
All right. I know you said that I've been banging the Chris Carson drum, which I have been all offseason. But I think there's been a thicker drum that I've been hitting, and it's for one Brandon Cooks. Thicker. That's a thing, right? Drums have different thickness. You know, you got a cymbal. That's pretty thin. And then you got the bass drum. That's a big guy. I think the analogy holds up, Dustin. But it's Brandon Cooks. All right. So, again, so undervalued every single year. Every single year. We do this with Brandon Cooks, but it's gone off the hinges now. His ADP is wide receiver 42. Dustin, what the fuck are we doing allowing his ADP to be at wide receiver 42? Here's his end of season ranks since 2015. See if you can spot the calamity in this whole deal. Wide receiver 13, wide receiver 10, wide receiver 15, wide receiver 13. Then he had a concussion year where he was dealing with that, and it threw him out. And he played like 10 games. It was bad. But then after that, wide receiver 17. That was last year on the Texans offense, which was already kind of in shambles anyways. So I understand. We don't know if Deshaun Watson is playing, and we're nervous about Tyrod Taylor or Davis Mills stepping in. Let me ease some of that qualm. Tyrod Taylor is actually a much better deep ball passer than people remember. It's weird. It's just weird that people have this idea that he's just a dump off king, because that's really not what he does. So let's say that we get Tyrod Taylor for the whole season. Is wide receiver 42 his floor? Probably. I literally think you're drafting this dude at his absolute floor, and I think it's actually higher than that. He's had 5 different 1,000-yard seasons over the last 6 seasons. Again, concussion year notwithstanding there. Saw at least 114 targets in each of those. In 2020, he played 15 games. In 11 of those, he had at least 10 fantasy points. 6 of those, he had at least 15 fantasy points. 4 of those, he had at least 20 fantasy points. That is floor. That is ceiling combined. And he had at least 5 targets in each of them. Had 8 targets in half of them. This is a terrible team. They are going to do nothing but throw all season long, and now they have nobody to throw to besides Brandon Cooks. Even Randall Cobb is gone. People who thought that Randall Cobb might have some usage in this offense for fantasy, he's gone. He's back to Green Bay. Yay. And so now you're looking at Brandon Cooks, rookie Nico Collins, who by all reports does look pretty good, but then there's no running game. The only pass catcher in the backfield is David Johnson, who people are already starting to worry about. Phillip Lindsay looks like this possibly starting running back there. He doesn't catch very many passes. It's Brandon Cooks. It's Brandon Cooks all day long. I know it's a bad quarterback situation potentially. It doesn't matter. He's wide receiver 20 at worst. I honestly believe that for this year. So I'm so excited to draft him in like the 20th round, wherever the hell he's going right now.
Yeah, he's been a perpetually undervalued asset at wide receiver, and take that value all day long. I mean, they have to throw to someone on the team. Let's be honest. They have to throw to someone. It's most likely going to be him because he's the most talented wide receiver on that team. So regardless of who the quarterback is, he's going to get fed targets this year. You know, they're going to be throwing the ball a shit ton because their defense is awful and they would be playing from behind all season long. So yeah, take that value. Take that value and snatch it up.
I'm going to do it, Dustin. And I can get on board with this next one for you and his value as well.
Yes. So my wide receiver is the one, the only Deebo Samuel. I've been talking about him all offseason as well. Someone I've just been so on board with, and I don't understand why he is going so late. So currently he is going as the wide receiver 36 off the board. He's going off in 92nd overall. So what is that? eighth, ninth round, right around there. So it's criminal. And I know everybody is very high on Brandon Ayuk, who had a very good rookie season, to give him credit. And I think he's a very talented wide receiver. But you have to remember, last year, Ayuk played the entire season. Kittle was hurt for a good chunk of the season. Debo was hurt for a good chunk of the season. So he didn't get to play with the full complement of the offense there. Why? People have forgotten already what an impact player he was in his rookie season. Let me pull this up here for you. So they actually had very similar stat lines between Ayuk and Debo. The one thing that was the big difference between them is the rushing, where Debo was very much involved in the rushing game for a wide receiver. He had 14 attempts for 160 yards and 3 touchdowns. So he was involved in a lot of those jet sweeps and things like that, scored touchdowns on the ground, basically an extension of the running game at that point, which we know how much San Francisco loves to run the ball. And with Debo, Ayuk, you've got George Kittle, all there. Kittle's going to get his, let's be honest. He is the number one option on that offense. But I think, especially if Trey Lance, gets to start early in the season, I think that's going to open things up more for Debo than for Ayuk. And just because, like I said, with that rushing ability and kind of that closer to the line depth of target that he tends to get. God, my words are just not coming out properly tonight.
No, they're beautiful. You shut up. They're beautiful.
So yeah, he has that lower A dot, but it's one of those, get him the ball quickly and then let him do his thing. He's basically, can do things that a running back can do in a wide receiver's body. And I just don't understand why people are so low on him after we were so high on him at this point last season. Granted, we kind of knew he had that lingering foot injury or whatnot, but he was being drafted way higher than this because of the season he had in his rookie year. And I know everybody loves the new hotness, but I think where you're taking Debo, he is going to pay off for that in spades this year.
Yeah, it is just recency bias. I truly believe that it's recency bias. And we got to see Ayuk, like you said, last year with very little competition. And so shiny new toy, plus he's getting all these targets because these other guys are down. They're done with injury. So I love Debo. I've said it before. I will say it again. I want the guy who's going to be used in the most versatile way in this offense, and that is going to be Debo. He's going to get that Robert Woods-like treatment of the little pop passes, the little end arounds, anything that they can do to get the ball in his hands, aside from even just traditional receiving work. And he's so explosive with whatever targets he gets, whatever touches he gets, that I want that. And going, let's see, how many spots behind Ayuk did we decide here? Brandon Ayuk, wide receiver 23, Debo Samuel, wide receiver 36. Yeah, very comfortable taking Debo there.
Yeah, going 30 picks later, 35 picks later, so almost 3 rounds later. Whew, I love that value.
Yeah, pretty comfortable with that. So we've talked about it before. We're both team Debo here, especially factoring in value. So we have a beer bet still at play about how closely Debo and Ayuk will finish together. But yeah, we are both team Debo there. So no shocker. Maybe a little bit of a shocker here at the tight end position, though, Dustin. You will have to tell me if it is.
I think so.
Yeah. Now, look, let me get out of the way that it would have been a cheat for this tight end drinking buddy to just put Kyle Pitts. I wanted to, would have loved to do that. It seems like such an easy cheat. I'm not going to do that. All right. Could he finish his tight end 1 overall? Sure. Am I going to take the credit for it afterwards? Probably. But I'm not going to list him as my drinking buddy here tonight. Instead, I'm going to focus at another guy who is going at the end of your drafts and might as well be free. That is Jared Cook, tight end for the Chargers. He steps into the role that was vacated by Hunter Henry. We just talked about the new toy that Cam has to work with in New England. Hunter Henry is gone. Hunter Henry saw 14 red zone targets in 14 games where he was pretty banged up last year. Some of that is that Hunter Henry's talent. Yeah. Is Jared Cook going to step in and get a good chunk of that, if not the whole shebang? I really think so. Our good friend Sam Wallace, who again we got to meet at the Expo this weekend, had a great article about Jared Cook and why he is a value and why he's underappreciated. I think people think Jared Cook and they're just like, well, there's a guy who happens to play tight end who got shoehorned into a uniform and they schlep him out there and he plays tight end. I'm sure he can block well. And they don't realize how good of a receiver he is. So if you look back to the last 3 years, Jared Cook has ranked amongst tight ends first in yards per reception, second in touchdowns, fifth in air yards, and sixth in receiving yards amongst all tight ends. And yet we sit here in the middle of August and we're staring down tight end 19 for Jared Cook on an offense that I think we all love, with a quarterback that I think we all love in Justin Herbert. He is the goddamn man. And now we're looking at, yes, I love Keenan Allen. Don't get me wrong. Keenan Allen I will probably have on most of my rosters as well, because he's also pretty undervalued. I'm not completely sold on Mike Wallace. I love the upside of Mike Wallace, the potential of Mike Wallace, but I love whoever is stepping into this tight end role for the Chargers and is going to not only eat those red zone targets that Hunter Henry got, but is now an athletically gifted tight end that nobody realizes is athletically gifted. And again, you don't get those rankings. You don't get those numbers that Sam Wallace talked about by being an average tight end or a mediocre pass catcher. So I'm all about him. This is that guy. Punt the tight end position. If you don't want to go for Kelsey, you don't maybe want to go for Waller, don't believe in Kittle or Mark Andrews, then wait for Jared Cook.
Mm-hmm. That's one a little shout out our friend Troy, friend of the show, in the chat saying hello, friends. Another delightful human being that
we got to meet
person.
him too, and it was like checking off the header of your bucket list. You know, like it might as well just be bucket list, and then you check it off. It's like meet Troy. We got to do that, so that's pretty nice.
Yeah, absolutely. And getting back to Jared Cook, I guess I can get on board with your take there, especially for where he's being drafted. I mean, if you're going to wait and punt tight end, yeah, Jared Cook is a good replacement. But I don't know if he's got that really high upside that you're hoping for. I think his ceiling's a little limited, but it's okay for us to disagree. Respectfully.
Is it though? No, I'm going to spend the next 2 hours trying to wear you down and agree with my take. No, to be fair, no, I'm not saying he has top 5 tight end upside. I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is that this is a guy you could plug into your roster every single week and probably not have to worry about getting goosed. And you are going to get those multiple touchdown games frequently. And again, I think his floor is so much safer than what people believe. Now, Dustin, though, I say this as the guy who is notoriously awful at calling out tight end production and predicting what tight ends are going to do. So honestly, it's probably the smartest move for you to disagree with me on this. Just based on the stats.
Right. And I know that you're going to disagree with my tight end take here as well. So I think it was only fair that I pointed that out too. So
Okay.
That being said, we'll finish this off here with my tight end, and that is Logan Thomas. Now, Jake, I know you don't like this because of Ryan Fitzpatrick and his apparent lack of use of targeting his tight ends. But let me tell you something here. Last year, Ryan Fitzpatrick, and this is with Tua, it was with both quarterbacks playing there. But Gasecki's targets last year, same as it was the year before. His receptions more than the year before. Almost 200 yards more than the previous year. Had more touchdowns than the previous year. His average depth of target higher than it was the previous year. So all this baloney about Ryan Fitzpatrick not targeting the tight end at all is a flat out false narrative.
That's not what I said.
Fake news.
First of all, I didn't say that he doesn't target his tight ends, but I said that Gaskin was the beneficiary of Tua for most of those games, who targeted the tight end a lot more. That is why he saw that increase was Tua, not Fitzpatrick. I stick by it.
False. But this is a guy, you have to take him somewhat early. He is going off as the 8th tight end off the board at 78 overall, which is end of round 6, roughly. Yeah, you got to take him a little high, but this is a guy that has the potential easy. I mean, we saw it last year. He was top 5. I think he's going to finish there this year again, or he has the potential to finish there. Granted, Washington has a little bit more weapons on offense with I'm blanking the wide receiver. Not Terry McLaurin, the other guy.
Curtis Samuel.
There you go. That's the one. That's why you're my co-host. I know they brought in Curtis Samuel, who's an upgrade in the position there. We expect Gibson to be much more involved in the passing game this year. But all those things mean that Logan Thomas can't get that really good coverage. They have to account for these other pieces on defense. So Logan Thomas should have more favorable matchups, and Ryan Fitzpatrick will be targeting him. And he is a big red zone target as well. So this is why you should draft him. It wasn't a fluke last year. He's going to return that value, and I think he's going to be top 5 with ease this season.
With ease? My good. So wait, because you said with ease, I have to know. If you're drafting, let's say ADP be damned, but Mark Andrews or Logan Thomas?
Ooh, that's real close.
Mark Andrews is currently the 5th tight end going off the board.
Right. That is a tough one. So I really do like Andrews as well.
With ease, he says, as he decides between these two tight ends.
Well, it could be Andrews and then Logan Thomas in my top 5, rounding out my top 5.
I guess let's say this. Who out of this top 5 do you think that Thomas would usurp here? And I really hope you don't say one specific name, but okay, Travis Kelce, freshly shaved Travis Kelce. This might be the easy one because now he's like tight end 14 after that picture posted.
I know.
Darren Waller, George Kittle, Kyle Pitts, or Mark Andrews. Out of those 5, who do you see falling down enough for him to move up there?
If I had to pick one, it would probably be Kyle Pitts, even though it pains me.
The name I didn't want you to say.
I know it pains me to say it because I really love Kyle Pitts. I think he's just a wide receiver with a designation of tight end. He's that good. So I really like that. But if I had to pick one, only because he's a rookie this season, and that would be the only reason. But that would be the one I would take out of the top 5. But getting back to your original question, whether it was Mark Andrews or Logan Thomas, I would take either. I mean, it's a cop-out answer, but I'd take either one of them. Honestly, they both have that upside and touchdown potential that I don't think you can go wrong with either of them. So I can't stick.
I'd avoid both. I would avoid both actually, and because they fall into that middle round, middle in quotes, I guess, for Mark Andrews, but close enough to that middle round area where I avoid tight ends anyways, unless there's somebody that really jumps off the page that I'm super smitten with. And there's nobody in this middle that I'm smitten with, including Andrews. So, yeah. So you would have either. I would take neither. I think, listener, you should probably listen to the guy who knows more about tight ends, which is not me. But I am sticking by my guns here. I'm going to turn this ship around, Dustin.
All right. Fair enough. Well, that is all we had on our show sheet tonight, going through each position with our drinking buddies for this season. How do you feel about this, Jake?
Feel goddamn satiated. I feel delighted. I feel full. I feel my heart right now is so full because we have these on the books. So now the excitement is tracking these guys throughout the season. Of course, trying to draft them in every single league again.
Mm-hmm.
I swear to God, I have all 4 of these guys in at least 75% of my leagues, like together as a foursome.
Right.
So,
you talk
I
the
can't
talk.
wait. I talk the damn talk, and I'm going to try and be getting these guys in my home league. So now you know exactly who I'm targeting. I know exactly who you're targeting in our home league.
Right.
So that'll be fun, at least.
Yeah, absolutely.
But yeah, there's going to be great to check in on here in the next off season.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. For sure. Well, that will do it for this week, folks. Tune in again next week. Please go out, give us a rate and review on Apple Podcasts. We truly do appreciate it. It helps people find us, and just go spread the word. Just go, hey, tell your friend, go check out Drinking Fantasy on Twitter. They're great. They're funny. They know their stuff. We love them.
Yeah. Can I actually make a suggestion for our listeners to do? Write in black marker. It doesn't have to be, permanent. It's just black marker. Write DTFF on your hand, and then walk up to your friends and then smack them in the face so that you leave the imprint of DTFF on their face. And that's not only good for them so that when they, check in the mirror, they see it, but then all the people who walk by them also see it. Throw the hashtag in there, hashtag DTF. That way we can get that going.
That's right. I like that. Thanks, Jake.
Yeah.
That'll do it for this week, folks. Like I said, check us out on the Twitter machine at Drinking Fantasy. You can find my co-host, Jake Trowbridge, at Jake Trowbridge on Twitter. And you can find me at FF Dusty Dog. Our DMs are open at any time to answer any of your drafting or trade questions here as we're coming up to the start of the season and the heart of the redraft season here. We have all the information you need, so don't hesitate to reach out to any one of those places. We got you covered. So until next week, folks, keep drinking and talking fantasy football.
Cheers, FFers.